Welcome to Hot Takes and Beer Breaks.
We were over intoxicated and underinformed.
We're just three dudes talking news and drinking booze.
I'm John.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Justin.
Okay, Brittany, how are you doing today? Are you ready?
I'm good. I don't even know what day it is. It feels like it's Monday, but it's Tuesday and I can't wait for Friday.
Well, I'm super excited to talk to you because we're personal friends. We go back a ways, Brittany. Before we get into you, I wanna ask you something, all right? Because freshman year, I transferred into Western Connecticut State University, right? That was the first time I got to meet you. And just to give Jason and Justin, you guys, a picture of who Brittany is, like she was like her best friend. Her birthday, she asked me to come down and surprise her, and she met me without even knowing me in a random cafeteria.
So sorry. So sorry.
It was a good time, though, right? It was a good birthday surprise, right, Britt?
I'd say so. I thought it worked out.
All right, but then also Brittany's a terrible person because, like, on my transfer down to Western Connecticut, she was like, "Hey, we're gonna take you out to the club. We're gonna have a good time out on your first time out because everyone goes out on Thursday nights because no one has class on Fridays." And then she ditched me to go to the bar.
Nice.
Do you remember that, Brett?
Hot take. I'm on her side for this one.
Thank you. See?
Why didn't you just go to the bar, John?
No, I went to the club.
Oh.
Because someone here didn't have a fake ID and someone here did.
Wow. So somebody's respecting the law?
Oh, God. I thought that was a funny story, though, because it was like, I was super excited. Britt's talking me up the whole day. She's like, yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be so much good. And then like 7 o'clock comes. She's like, yeah, we're not really feeling going out there. We're going to go to the bar instead and just ditch.
We pivoted.
Yeah. All right, Britt. I'm really excited to talk to you today. We're going to get into the rise in Asian American hate crime. That spiked by 150% over the past year, which is awful. But let's get to know you a little bit better. Why don't you explain what you do at your work?
Okay, so my current title is I'm an assistant director of design and UX at the Hartford, which that translates to I support the middle and large commercial sector for user experience and design. So think about apps, even like, let's just talk about Google right now, what we're using for Google Meet. My job is to design the experience from the time you open the link to the time you're done with it, along with what the user interface looks like to make sure that it's intuitive, modern. And I'm able to design that and pass it off to our developers where they're actually able to bring it to life. That's kind of my job in a nutshell.
I didn't understand a word of that.
I mean, I don't mean to brag over here, but all three of us combined together to make a somewhat comprehensive podcast.
I don't know about that comprehensive part.
Somewhat. Britt,
it's actually pretty cool. So like, so are you designing, or are you like the one that's like beta testing, you're troubleshooting everything, or you start to finish from an app from the user experience?
So usually I do the start to finish from an app. So in my current role within middle and large commercial, so I have underwriters. Those are my users. I have to understand like their jobs, their roles, their pain points. And so one of the pain points they have is they need to be able to price businesses. So think of like an Amazon, for example. They have how many warehouses across the world. Amazon can reach out to the Hartford for insurance, and the underwriters need to be able to price, what is going to be the insurance policy we're going to give out, like what is the premium. So they need to do it fast. So it's my job to understand what are those pain points for these underwriters that when pricing, they need to deliver it fast. What are the bottlenecks? So is it a bad system that's not intuitive? Is it like, what is it about the system? So it's my job to understand that and then design solutions around those pain points. So for example, what I'm currently doing, we have a database that's really ugly. It's really old. It takes them X amount of time to do it. And they've invested millions of dollars to upgrade it. And we want to make sure we're increasing productivity and the pricing premiums are going out faster so we can get more business.
Okay. So it's basically the equivalent of what John does on our podcast. He will learn what the youths are doing in the day, do the crazy TikTok dances for them in order to get more people onto our podcast.
Yes.
I didn't understand a word. Are you sure we went to the same school?
We did.
I'm glad Justin understood that.
Well, I went to a state school as well.
Oh, dang.
2 state schools.
I was like, holy shit, I think Britt went to a different like education center than I did. That was in
She just went to class.
Yeah.
This is true. I did go to class.
Is that what that was for?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's awesome though. It seems like you'll never get bored because it's always something new.
Oh no, and that's the best part about this field. Like, my undergrad was actually in IT, and then I did my master's in design specifically because I didn't want to do the IT part. I was over it, to be honest with you, and I wanted to do some parts of it in business strategy, but it's creative, and I'm able to stay on top of everything in the world.
Nice.
Plus, it also is interesting when things are really bad. Like recently, I switched providers for my cell phone, and that experience was as horrendous gets. And I'm like screaming at the troubleshooting people. I'm like, optimize this experience because that's my job.
Sprint T-Mobile, huh?
Oh no, even worse. I went to Verizon.
Oh.
Love the service. The experience is rough.
Mm-hmm.
God, I hope no one from Verizon hears this.
I don't have Verizon. Oh, you mean
this episode is sponsored by Verizon Fire.
Britt, what are you excited? Because every time I talk to you, you're always excited about your job, just as you explained to us just now. Like, what do you hope to accomplish in your career field?
Oh God, what a loaded question.
Sorry.
It's funny. Someone
all of your hopes and dreams in 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Actually, someone just asked me that loaded question. They asked, what is my design journey, or where do I want to go? And right now, not newest thing, but the thing that I feel like my track has led me to is obviously I want to go up the ladder. So right now I've had, I'm really lucky to be in the role I'm at. But I end up wanting to be the head of inclusive design. So designing for all types of users across the board, whether you come from, if you have a disability to accessibility to different people of color, like making sure that experiences for users on a platform is as inclusive as possible. That's where I want to go, I think.
That's awesome.
I know.
Wow.
I saw that was one of your social causes you care about is DEI. And I looked that up, and I thought that was really cool how you just want to include everyone into everything, make sure it's as user friendly as possible. So do you want to expand upon that and talk about
Yeah. I think, one of the things, I'm going to be very transparent and honest. And I say this even to people, whether it's I'm talking on Clubhouse or just my peers, I'm not an expert quite yet in DE&I. So diversity, equity, inclusion, but I'm learning. And, I think that's the part of this that I love is that I want to be able to make a difference in terms of design, but I need to get there. I need to learn through people's experiences. I want to make sure that someone's using a platform, that they are able to use the platform and not have to feel that they're being excluded. I was recently reading a book by one of my friends, and he talked about this example of, I think it was grocery shopping through mobile apps. They target specific users that are, the soccer moms of the world that make it easy. Order it online. I have an iPhone, pick it up. It's easy. But what about the people that are from lower poverty areas that don't have access to a smartphone? Or what about the disabled folks that have disabilities that make it hard for them to use that app, that grocery shopping is the bane of their existence? How do we make it accessible across the board for people that they don't have to feel like having to request an accommodation that they feel wrong, that this sucks. I think that's kind of where I'm going. And I think for me, as the social cause, it's making sure that we're building awareness across that space. And I truly cannot emphasize, I'm not perfect in this. I'm just learning. I mean, you knew where I grew up, you would be like, well, why is Brittany going down this path? It's just something that I think I have a purpose and passion for.
Is there something in your past that drove you to that? Because you did talk about where you grew up just now, and you kind of talked about certain experiences. Is there anything you want to expand upon with that?
Yeah, and I think we'll talk about it more through the podcast. So just I'll put this out there. I am Korean American, but I'm adopted. So my parents are white. My last name is German, and I've been raised in a very predominantly white community, and I've been raised pretty sheltered. I think living that life and being exposed to some of the things I've been exposed to and hearing people's experiences, I think that's just changed my perspective a bit. And I really cannot emphasize enough that it's just, I'm learning. I'm trying to listen to people's experiences. I'm trying to understand the things I didn't understand when I was a kid or even when I was in college. and also trying not to kind of fall down the path of imposter syndrome, which sometimes I struggle with myself.
Mm. Like, was it tough growing up in that kind of like household, like where you have two white parents maybe, and like you maybe don't like get that experience of learning about your Korean culture or anything like that?
It's interesting because, and I'm going to say this, is like I was raised by two phenomenal parents. I mean, just because we don't look alike and we don't have to share the same blood doesn't mean that they're any different. A lot of my friends, even to this day, they'll still refer to like my parents as like my adoptive parents, or they'll be like, well, what do you ever think about your real parents? But like my real parents is mom and dad, the ones that raised me, got me through college. Like they're regardless of how we look. I think it got tough as I got older. I think when I was younger, I didn't know what I didn't, that phrase, actually, you don't know what you don't know. Like that was me. And unfortunately, when I was a teenager, I had lost my mom. She had died from cancer. And my dad, who's a very humble but quiet human being, never prefaced my brother or I that we're going to face racism. They never talked about any of it. And my family, while I love them to death, they also are very, how do I say this? Sheltered people and very white. And I'm just going to say it straightforward. So, growing up in a white community, not knowing what racism is, hearing the slang words, hearing the things people say, like, I didn't know what it was. And you kind of go through this stage of like, you don't know how you fit in. And like, I remember so many experiences where like, I did everything in my power to like be white. Like, I remember after my mom had passed away, she was a big person against makeup. And I remember like I caked the makeup on to make my eyes look bigger. I dyed the hell out of my hair to like look more white. And like in the end, like that's not, I look at pictures of myself. I'm like, oh, there's Brittany with the raccoon eyes. There she is. Like, it's funny because like I didn't know, but like, as I've grown up and I've seen the other half of it and still learning it, it's like, I don't know. It wasn't hard getting raised that way, but it's hard now having those conversations.
Mm. And then like, I know you went to South Korea to actually learn about your birth mom. And like, what was that experience like? Was that exciting, nervous? Like, how do you kind of deal with that?
God, that was an experience. Let me tell you. So just like kind of background and context. So again, I'm adopted. I got lucky that my birth mom left a note in my file in Korea that if I ever were to reach out, she's there. And, I reached out when I was 16, 17. I think at the time I wasn't connected to Korean culture. I just missed my mom. And I thought that maybe in some part of this, I could connect with my birth mom and find that part of my heart again. Little did I know it would have changed my whole world. We connected over letters. We still talk to this day via letters. And going to Korea, I got lucky that my adoption agency was so gracious of letting me go on this like welcome home tour is what they called it. And I was able to go there and meet my birth mom, which was amazing, but also so many emotions. And I remember even taking a step back, I remember I took a direct flight from Bradley to Texas and then rushed from that stop to the Korea stop. And I remember getting on that flight and I remember having that shock of like, holy shit, everybody is fucking Asian. Like I remember having a mental breakdown at age 20 on the flight by myself, going to another country, calling my dad in tears, which by the way, I'm a travel person. So this is not a me thing. Calling my dad crying that like, Dad, everyone's Korean. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I can't do this. I need to go home. Like, I don't see any white people, black people. Like, I can't do this. And he literally was like, you have to calm down. Like, you're going to be fine. And then they had to shut my phone off because I had to take off. Like, and I remember being on the flight and like the flight attendants were talking to me in Korean, but my face is Korean, but I don't know what you're saying. And I literally was like, I don't speak Korean. I'm sorry. The little boy next to me didn't speak Korean or only spoke Korean. Everyone around me was Korean. And I was like, holy shit, what am I doing? Like, I just made it such a mistake. Get to Korea. I literally gravitated towards two white people that must have been on the back of the flight. And they helped me get through customs because I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm screwed. I'm screwed. I don't know what I'm going to do. And got there. A lot of it's blurry now that I'm older, but like, I remember getting in the taxi, someone picking me up and then finding out that I'm going to meet my birth mom in 8 hours, just got to another country. I don't even know what time zone it is. I'm like all messed up. They've already force fed me all this Korean food on a flight. I'm like, what the hell? I just want McDonald's. And like, it was a lot. And I remember going and meeting my birth mom was just like insane. It's, you know, if you guys look at your parents, you look at them and you kind of see like your eyes are from them or your hair or whatever. Like, I never can look at my dad and be like, hey, German dad, like we have the same eyes. Like, no, it's not that way. Yeah. But seeing my birth mom and like, I remember saying like to my parents, like my birth mom has the same hands as I do. Like, that's where I get my hands, or like we have the same facial structure. And to have that shock of like, holy shit, someone looks like me. It's kind of just like, whoa. It was a very short meeting. She has kids and she has a life. And unfortunately, the way the Korean culture is, they are not at the place where we are, where having a child out of wedlock is something that is acceptable. So I am very much a secret. I've remained a secret. That's why we still talk through letters. But I never push on her at all by any means of like, I want more, because she has a life. And, you know, I could never put myself in her shoes having a baby. She was 22-ish. Her family, her parents never knew about it. She hid the pregnancy and I was a secret, and she had me, went to the hospital, gave birth and left. And to think that your baby is getting sent to another country with people, you have no idea who they are. And you never know where your child is for years. And so now that she has children of her own, she knows where I'm at, but like, I don't want to push on that and like make her feel any guilt on top of the guilt she's already felt. Like, I have a life. I'm healthy. I have beautiful parents. And it's important that I make sure she knows that, but I never push on her for more. And then, you know, having that experience has totally changed me, because now I feel like not attached, but I definitely feel more connected to my Korean roots, because obviously outside of that, then I went to go visit Korea and I loved it. Except for, I will tell you, when I got back to Texas, I ate McDonald's because I was so ready for that food.
It's addicting.
Which, by the way, fun fact, their McDonald's, it was good, but like they had like squid burgers and like less fat. And I was like,
ooh, it sounds really good though.
Yeah, you say that, but then like, we're lucky that I can have Mexican, I can go to Korean, I can get Italian here, and that's part of our lives. But like going to McDonald's and being like, hey, can I have a squid burger? And thinking it's a Big Mac. It's a different world.
Get the mixed squid. Oh, that's awesome.
Awesome. But like, once you're at like I was there for 3 weeks. Once I got to that 2-week mark, I was like, oh my God, I need a piece of pizza, not like bulgogi. Like, I'm done.
Did you feel more comfortable when you came back home? Like, not just having the food, like obviously you had that connection to Korea, but like coming back home, like where you've been the most, like, did you feel more safe kind of?
Coming home was interesting. I changed. My dad said it too. He was like, you're different. He's like, you can tell, straightforward, you're just different. It connected me more to my Korean roots. I felt a sense of, up until that point, I was pretty much ashamed of being ever Asian. And I remember having confessed that to like my best friend's mom a few times, that, you know, I don't like it. I hate it. And it's because I didn't know what my identity was. So I definitely felt more safe and like comfortable. But I would even say now, I feel like I go through this journey of like feeling comfortable in my own skin. Like, for example, I lead our enterprise Asian Pacific ERG network for one of our pillars. Never in my life would have ever joined an Asian-centered employee resource group, because I never felt like I fit in. And that's why I keep referring to sometimes the imposter syndrome, because like, you know, this is my first year with my boyfriend that we celebrated like Korean New Year. Like, I've learned so many times how to like cook Korean, but like I'm learning from books and YouTube and like doing my best. But like, I don't have like, I have a Korean birth mother and family there, but obviously right now I don't have the time or the relationship to be like, hey, let's go cook in my kitchen. Like, Roy, like I know how my mom had cooked, you know, her Italian marinara sauce. So I do struggle hard with that imposter syndrome piece, because it's like, I wasn't raised that way, but like, I don't have any of that to derive from. So like, am I doing this for the right reasons? Am I right for doing it? Where like, I struggle with that identity piece of being Asian, but also being white, because that's how I was raised.
Is there also like growing up, like you're growing up white basically in this white family, but like, is there like memories you can like talk about where like maybe like you were treated differently because like maybe someone treated you differently based on the way you looked or something, or like they because you're Korean, like everyone will just like say something that's incredibly offensive that made you feel bad, I guess.
Or even like they didn't mean to be offensive, but like it's like an offhand statement that they think is just all good fun, but it's something that actually took personal to you.
I mean, it's funny. It's like all that stuff happened, the slurs, the jokes, all of it happened when I was younger. Not that it doesn't happen now, but like, I don't know. It's like a fitting in thing. So for example, like, you know, friends back home would make jokes and be like, hey, you're my last name is Schlenk. So the nickname was Schlenky Chinky. Like, it's funny to think about for a second, but like at high school age, I didn't know any better because I wasn't getting told that was wrong. Where like now I'm an adult and I'm like, yeah, you got to cut that. I mean, I've gotten the backhanded comments, I think, across the board around like, wow, you're so pretty for like a Korean person, or like, you're such a pretty Asian. And it's like, there's a backhand part to this. Like, am I just pretty, or like, is it because I'm Asian? Those things that get said. And I think the tougher things that I'm learning now is like, you know, comments from my family down souther than I am right now. I don't know if that's a word. They're in Florida.
We'll make it a word. We got you.
We're going to make it a word. I love them, but they can be racist. They have racist things. And like, you know, with COVID-19 and the politics behind some of this, or even just like the political views, you know, I have family that has associated like COVID-19 with Asian people. I mean, Christmas, I literally remember my grandmother, and God, let's not ever send her this video of her being like, you know, those Chinese people, they brought this like COVID-19 here, those Asians, like, hello, like I'm right here. Like, grandma, I'm literally right here. Nothing. They don't get it.
Is that tough? Sorry, Justin.
It reminds me of like, it's weird because whenever a lot of people throughout history, and like you've seen this in like in the history books or anything, people who are racist, there's always like one person of like color, or one person who's different than them, that they're like, oh, but that person's good. And they can take a singular thing and be like, oh, but that's different. It's like, no, people are people. And to your point about the COVID being like causing a lot of racism towards Asian people, I've heard people say like something as dumb as like, oh, I'm not gonna get Chinese food anymore because of this. And it's like, that doesn't solve why. One, you're just from like economic point of view, you're not supporting the small business because of something that happened in another country. And it's dumb. It's just so dumb. It all just comes back to ignorance.
Have you experienced anything like that, Britt? Like, cause you're Korean, and like a lot of ignorant people would just be like, Asia's Asia. And has anyone said anything like, oh, like called you Chinese or anything like that, like really offensive, where they like assume that you're part of that culture or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I have to make sure I'm very clear on eliminating names and titles. Someone close to me, and I know, so this is like the thing, you have to remember intent, but also like what's right and what's wrong. And, you know, the context of how I grew up and like me letting that go is very important, because some of these people that are closest to me still make comments and jokes because I've always let it happen. Someone very close to me, when it happened, they literally texted me and said, Britt, your people need to stop eating that soup because look what you've done to the world. Very, very close to me.
Wow.
And again, I'm in this place of like, okay, haha, funny, but like, you know how I grew up. Like, I don't associate necessarily to Asian culture. I literally just talked for like 20 seconds about imposter syndrome. Like, you know, I was raised by two white people, and I get it's the intent is to make a joke, but the joke isn't funny. And it's like my responsibility to be like, all right, cut the shit. But I also feel, be honest, like sometimes I feel wrong for even standing up for myself in that place, because again, I struggle with the like, Brit, you're Asian, but you're also like the way you were raised, like it was always okay. So kind of like having to blend those two is very hard. I mean, that happened. And then I have a younger brother who's adopted. He's Korean as well. He is a mailman, and he also gets a lot of comments from people. And he's in the Danbury area where, you know, he's delivering to predominantly white communities, and people are rude towards him. Like, he's told me the stories, and it's just very tough because it's like, we're Asian on the outside, but like, if you knew where our upbringing was, like, we're no different.
It's also disgusting because, like, first off, COVID is a freak thing. Like, it's not anyone's fault. Like, it's a natural thing that happened, and it's not your guys' fault anyway. Like no Asian American here is the reason that COVID happened. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, that's just a disgusting. Like, I don't understand why people just all of a sudden decide they're going to take their frustrations out on other Americans. You know what I mean? Like, Britt, you're an American. Like, that's it's crazy to me that happens.
Well, fun fact about America, it's always been pretty fucked up to Asian Americans.
True.
All the way back since I did a little bit of history research.
He's our history guy, just so you know, Britt.
Yeah. So all the way back in 1882, as you can see on the Wikipedia page for the Chinese Exclusion Act, which literally was, I want to say it's the only illegal or only immigration act to prevent a certain like race of people from entering the country. And it was because there was like a whole thing with people going to the gold rush, and they're like saying how Chinese people are taking their jobs. It's always people taking jobs when it comes to racism in this country. It's disgusting. And the fact that they were able to get actual laws passed to prevent people from entering. It's disgusting.
A show. Okay, it's actually the purpose of this. I don't know all of the history behind the Asian hate in the world. Like, I am no expert. And so you know more than I do at this point.
I can Wikipedia.
You taking the action of Wikipedia is more than I've done. And I preface that because I always say it, like, I never want to come off like this expert or this like not advocate, but I don't want to come off like I'm perfect in this. And just because I'm Asian means like I know everything. Because let me tell you, I know jack shit. But I will say there was a show. It's on HBO Max. And
Warrior?
Yes, I watched that with my boyfriend, who was the one that actually watched it before me. And I remember I kept walking downstairs in our house, and I was like, "What are you watching? Like, they're screaming, and I hear yelling." And like, I realized it was all Asian people, and then I started to like pick up on it. And then there was a scene in the second season when they lynched that man. Let me tell you, I have never in my life felt, I hate this phrase, some type of way about it, because like I've never, I don't know, this sounds really bad for me to admit, and God, hope I don't come off wrong when I say this. You know, you hear in history that lynching is a thing, especially predominantly to the African American community. We know the history of it, but I've never watched something that I looked at it and was literally like, "Oh my God, that person looks like me," because they're Asian. And I remember watching that scene, and I was like, "Holy shit, what did I just watch?" And I remember feeling so sick to my stomach. And I said to my boyfriend, like, "This is like a lot. Like, I have to like digest this," because again, I've never watched something that was like that relatable, because you don't always see Asian American shows that are at that caliber. And most of the time, like, I mean, a lot of the Asian American Korean shows I've ever seen are on Netflix, and they're like the ones that like are in full Korean with subtitles. And it's not highlighted as like, hey, this is the top 10, you know, like there's only a couple of shows that I can think of that way. And it's like, that one was one of them where I was like, oh, wow, they are really honing in on like some serious stuff.
It's funny you bring up Warrior, because I've never actually seen it, but I know like some of the behind the scenes stuff. I'm also the movie guy here. So this was actually something, I believe it was based on the writings of Bruce Lee. And so he originally had like an idea for a script of like an Asian led action something. And back when he was in his heyday, like even though how we view him as like such a iconic martial arts and actor, Hollywood didn't want to give him shit because they didn't want to bank somebody who wasn't a white dude.
Yep.
And look at the show; it looks amazing.
Oh, it was very good. To compare, it's like looking at when Black Panther came out, just showing any amount of diversity, just something different than white dudes in Hollywood. It's financially like advantageous. You want to go for it. I would love to see more. If Bruce Lee was still around, I would love to see more of that. Korean directors, the guy who just directed Parasite.
You're the movie guy, Justin. Come on.
Yeah,
he also directed the Parasite, which just won the Grammy last year. He also directed one of my favorite movies, Snowpiercer. And I just like the difference in movie style, different in styles of everything. That's what makes it interesting.
It's Bong Joon-ho?
Bong Joon-ho?
Bong Joon-ho, yeah.
Yes, I think I pronounced that right.
I tell you guys, I can't pronounce anything.
All right, well, I'll bring you to something I know Britt does know, because I know Britt is a huge fan of the MCU. She texts me all the time about her theories. I think every single Friday she would text me about WandaVision. Am I wrong, Britt?
No, this show this whole Marvel Cinematic Universe gives me anxiety.
Oh, well, because like a big complaint with the MCU is there's not enough Asian American or just Asian representation. And like there's Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings coming out soon. Like, is that something that excites you? Because you're a big fan of the MCU and you're starting to see more representation in the movies you love. Like, what does that do to you? Kind of.
I'm definitely excited for that. It's actually funny. I was on a Clubhouse call or room last week, and I actually talked to Simu Liu, that is actually the star of that new movie. And he's also the star of, Kim's Convenience, which is one of my favorite shows on Netflix. And if you haven't watched it, you should watch it because it's really funny.
Get us an interview by any chance?
Tell me you have a really successful podcast to plug.
But I had asked him a question about, him. What was his intent behind joining like Kim's Convenience? I mean, he's a Canadian actor, he's Asian American, and he, started in this show and, did starting in that show end up being more to him around like his representation? And he answered it very like honestly and also diplomatically, because I think at the end of the day, he's been very intentful about like, I think he's been tweeting and poking at Marvel for like, I don't even know how many years. So like, when are you going to put me in this movie and like into the cinematic universe? And they did it. And so I'm really pumped, obviously, just because I love Marvel, but I'm also very excited to see him star as a star lead. Like, it's not just like he's like a side character or the villain, like, because I think that's going to change the perception of what people think Asian American people are. Like, all of our lives, you always, the persona Asian American men, I mean, it's always portrayed to me too. Like, they have this persona of being more nerdy or like tiny and not like these big bulk, like actors that you see in the world. And I think it's going to help change the perception a little bit, especially with such a powerful brand.
Mm-hmm.
You touched on something really interesting before. I'm sorry if I cut anyone off, but like you talked about the lead, he's going to be the lead in the new movie and be like the hero of the story. And that's something interesting because whenever people complain about representation in movies, like they'll say, well, Iron Man had War Machine, why are you upset? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Like, there's representation in these films, but it's like, they're not the leads. Like, they're the side characters, the goofy characters. They don't get that much screen time. That's why Black Panther was such a big deal. So is that something that like you can tell people, like, even though maybe there's like small little characters that show up, maybe even in Doctor Strange, but like it's a much bigger deal to have a lead character show up?
Yeah, and I would also add too, he's a lead character that's going to be consistent. I mean, anyone that's watched Marvel, like Iron Man started how many years ago and continued his reign until what? 2 years ago? I don't know the dates off the top of my head.
He's coming back, Britt.
I know, I believe that, but I'm saying like consistency.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same thing with Black Panther and R.I.P. to Chadwick, but like that character was going to be consistent. It's not just a random movie that's going to go up in the box offices. Like, what was that? Crazy Rich Asians. Love that movie. Loved what they did. But it was kind of a one movie. It's just one and done. Where Marvel is known for I mean, obviously, I think we're going into phase 4. Like, they're like for real. But like that, once they introduce him, and I think, is it this summer in July? He's going to be a consistent is it just July or is it next July? Or did they push it out because of COVID-19?
Everything's been pushed back because of COVID. Technically, Black Widow is supposed to be out already. But
It's this July.
It's still July?
Yeah, July 9th.
So once that rolls out, it's like, yes, we're not going to obviously see maybe a second movie next year, but we're going to see him in the long run how many years from now? I mean, depending on how they do phase 4. But my whole point is it's going to be consistent. A lead character is consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And you think that will like excite children too? Because like, I know like maybe seeing someone that like you can recognize with on the big screen, like maybe it's important for children to kind of see that, especially in the main character kind of phase.
I think so. It's interesting. I was thinking before this podcast, I was thinking just about my experiences. And I remember when I was a kid, my grandmother, love her to death. She had bought me American Dolls, and I remember my mom used to make fun of it. She's like, you don't need this doll. Like, this is an expensive set of dolls. And I remember she used to buy me the Samantha doll that was a brunette, but a white doll. And simply because like that her dark hair look reminded her of me, because they didn't at the time have an Asian doll. And I sort of started thinking about growing up, and it's like the only movie I ever gravitated towards as a kid was Mulan, which by the way is still one of my favorites, but like, that was the only time, right? But it was the only one I was ever able to like resonate with, because my parents, and I love them to death, I do, but they never really put that in front of me. They never like, not that I needed them to make it intentional, but like, besides for Mulan, I think that's literally the only thing I can think of off the top of my head. There weren't any other like Asian shows or movies or anything. And like literally I was getting white dolls that have black hair given to me. I was like, oh, that's close enough. Where now I look at the kids now, and it's like, if they're seeing an Asian male star as a lead in a brand that is ginormous, I hope that makes a difference. And I think that, Disney and Pixar, I pick them specifically, I think they're trying to move that direction, to make more intentional decisions about what types of movies and shows they put out.
I agree.
That's also interesting because, like, just to go back to what you said, Britt, like you talked about how you were kind of ashamed to be Asian, like, and you were kind of wanted to be more white, like, so hopefully these kind of roles and these kind of things, like, kind of make people excited about their own culture, right? Like, it's something that could excite people. Like, America's a very diverse place. We should celebrate that, not hide from it.
No, I would agree. And I think, like, the important thing to remember is that America is a diverse place, and we need to celebrate all differences and similarities, and not just hone in on, I think, what we've been talking about, the white male experience in these large brands across every TV show and every platform.
Mm. Yeah. Like if we were intensely privileged growing up in terms of the media we consumed. You could ask each of us separately who our favorite superhero is, what our favorite cartoon was growing up, what our favorite TV show was growing up. And we have a multitude of like people to choose from. In the MCU alone, like we could pick when we were kids, like who we looked up to in terms of our media. It's unfair to people who don't look like white dudes. And personally, I like seeing a lot more diversity. It mixes things up because things get stale, and like I want to see different things in the media. And yeah, it's better for creativity. It's better for everything.
I think it also hones in on the diversity of thought and the diversity of like these different perspectives. I mean, I'm not going to own that. I met someone through Clubhouse, Camilla Benjamin, and she's, the creative director of UX at State Farm. And me and her had a conversation about that around like the diversity of thought. And I think that these different perspectives, the way we're showcasing them in the media it's meant to change the world. And we're not going to change the world overnight, obviously. But I think the intent is that hopefully as my grandparents' generation and then obviously our parents' generation rolls off, hopefully we have, what we're doing in the media can help impact our generation and the kids as well that are younger than us.
So we just got to wait out the old people to get out of the way.
Well, I mean, I don't mean to say it that way, but I'm going to be honest, I can't change my grandparents. I can't change my dad's brother who has their thoughts. This is engraved in them. And am I going to really waste my breath and be like, no, this is why you shouldn't think this? I'm not going to waste my time on them. But can we target us and target, our future kids one day? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because there's even people our age that are, targeting Asian Americans right now for COVID. And it's disgusting to see because it doesn't make any sense. So just to continue, and that's why I wanted to bring you on, Britt, because not only are you a great friend and a great person, but I think your message gets across way better than me, Justin, or Jason talking about this, because we're just three white dudes and we can talk about this all day. And I think we talked about, I'm sorry, Britt, you want to go ahead?
No, but you just made me think of something. Don't underestimate being three white dudes, because the power that three white dudes have is sometimes more than what I will have as an Asian American woman, especially in these large groups of people, businesses. You guys have more power than you think.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely right.
You do.
I think
Thank you.
we did it.
No, I mean, if you think about it, I was having a conversation with someone about the Black experience. And so we were talking about being allies and, the white guy being an ally to a Black guy. They're like, well, I'm not Black. Why does it matter? And I was like, because you have power. At least I'm going to speak from corporate America's standpoint. Being an ally isn't just about understanding the experiences. You can advocate for people. I mean, you guys having up this platform, you can advocate for the hate going on, but you also can go and check in with your Asian American friends or your Black friends that when the George Floyd tragedy happened, you can go and make a difference by just asking how they are. Dude, I'm seeing everything that's going on in the world. Hope everything is okay. You can use the platform on Instagram to literally just say checking in is more important than you think. Someone at my job said it in a courageous conversation that the Hartford hosts around. They asked, I don't want to feel awkward, but how do I check in with my Black colleagues when things like this happen, which is unfortunate. And someone literally answered, it's better to come to the party than to not show up at all. And that's exactly how it is with three white dudes that have the power to go check in and broadcasting it through these types of platforms or social media, or even just your friend groups. If you're in a group text and you're like, hey, XXX, how are you? It means a lot more than you think.
Totally agree. I wanted to bring you on because I wanted to give you the platform and the space to talk. And, I think even though we're just three white dudes, but we do have that ability to just kind of bring other people on and talk to them and, maybe show our own ignorances and talk about it and talk it out and learn. I think we're all just kind of trying to learn from each other, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think you just said something so important is the vulnerability and the authenticity to you wanting to learn is so important, because there are so many people in my life, honestly, and I hope they're watching this now and listening, that are too, think of the inclusion scale. You have the super high acceptance to the people that are disgusted by it. And there are so many people that are in that gray area of I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to post anything. I'm not going to even address it, but I'm not racist. It's just but they're not going to admit their own ignorances, and being able to admit and be vulnerable for that 2 seconds of I'm trying to learn. It means more than because again, I have friends, a lot of friends that are so in that space of I don't care to learn. I don't want to admit my vulnerabilities. I'm not racist, but they don't want to do more.
Literally saying, oh shit, my bad, I didn't see it that way, is probably one of the best things you could say if you genuinely mean it. If you're just trying to sidestep a conversation. But if you get somebody to make you think a different way than what you think beforehand.
Mm-hmm. And it's also very how do I say this? I keep saying I'm still learning. I don't know how to say certain things. The other day I was literally having a conversation with someone at work about accessibility. I don't know how to say things where it's not offensive. And it's okay to feel awkward for that 2 seconds of, listen, I don't know how to say something. I don't know how to say where it's not offensive. We were talking about like accessibility and like, how do you phrase something about something around disability? And she was like, you know, one of the ways you can phrase it is, you know, you want to make a design, you want to design something that is for everyone, that's with people with varying abilities, so they don't feel excluded. Those little things of me just asking the questions, like I said, I was like, I don't mean to sound like an asshole. And it's almost like a backhanded comment there, but I want to learn. I don't know. And admitting that you don't know and feeling awkward, it shows a whole level of vulnerability and authenticity, and people can see that. It's all about intent.
Show that you're human.
Mm-hmm.
That goes back to, I remember when the Black Lives Matter just started, not that when it just started, but last year when it picked up a lot of steam, I reached out to one of my Black friends and I was like, hey, I don't really know. I wanted to put out a statement like in support, but I didn't want to come off virtual signaling. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to come off genuine, but also not offend anyone. And I just reached out to him. I was like, hey, like, what do I got to say? And he tweaked little certain things. He's like, hey, this seems more talking down. You want to talk more equal, you know? So like, just to get back to, like, I don't think anyone should be scared of being called racist. I think you should be like more scared of not learning from those experiences. Like if someone was to come to me and say, hey, you treat me differently based on my race, like, oh, like, I'm so sorry. Like, let me learn from it. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Like if I went up to Jason and I said, Jason, did you come into my house and shit on my floor? Did you leave a 3-foot log in the kitchen with high humidity on the day? And if you reacted in a very, what? I would never shit on your floor in a 3-foot log during humid weather. I'm going to think that maybe you came into my house and shit on the floor. But if you're like, oh no, that wasn't me, I apologize for the inconvenience you have.
A little bit
I just
more.
want to talk about a poop on the floor.
I figured.
Britt, this is where the podcast goes off the rails, just so you know.
This is the shit show.
I don't know. Britt, do you have anything else you want to talk about? Like, I know I appreciate you for coming out, or we all appreciate you for showing up.
Do you have any questions for us?
Oh, shit. Good question.
No, I think I asked all my questions to you guys in the beginning before we started filming. No, I think the only closing things I would just say is like, you know, when things like this happen, you don't necessarily have to go, okay, my opinion, actually, let me preface this. These are my views, my opinion, and they're not tied to anything else. But, you know, when things like this are happening, like the Asian community, the violence, the things like this, or even all the way to the level of the violence around whether it's police brutality or what's happening to the African-American community, like, you don't always have to go above and beyond and have to post all the time. And like, you know, it's like your bread and butter. But if you come from a place of intent and you come from like the right place, honestly, coming from your heart, and I don't mean to sound like a generic, like, you know, spit a quote out, but like, yeah, if you check in with people because you care and just making sure to be that person for someone, like it goes a long way. And I can't emphasize that enough because like there's a lot of people in this world that don't do it. And like, I would also just say, and this is just my personal pet peeve, when people, and I love my friends that do it, I preface that because there's a couple in my head that I could picture literally listening to this and be like, oh, she's talking shit about me.
Talking shit.
When they're talking about like adoptees and stuff, like I always refer to like my birth, I've said it 100 times, my birth mom. She's my birth mom because my mom is my mom. They're not like, you know, people have always asked me when I was a kid, you know, do you feel like differently because like your real parents don't look like you, or like, well, what about your real family? And I'm like, my real family are the people that I'm living with, the people that have grounded me from taking the car out when I'm not allowed to, or like talking shit. Like, I just say be mindful of like how you phrase things. And also if you don't know, it's fine. Just ask. At least I think so. I mean, I always just ask.
Cool. That's great. I think that's great advice. You know what I mean? Like definitely just be understanding and ask questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Britt, this was an absolute pleasure. I love having you guys. Yeah,
it was. You are way too good of a person to be on our podcast. your story at one point, because usually whenever John's talking, I need to make jokes about. I did not want to interrupt you for a second. It was awesome.
Oh shit! Am I getting replaced as a?
Yes, you are,
Yes,
John.
100%.
Britt, drop your career and all your career aspirations. You're going to join this mediocre podcast and take over as.
Hey, you guys are doing better. I mean, I even had, what was it, a producer that emailed me officially? I was like, what is this?
Yep. Shout out, producer.
We're doing it.
We're doing great.
Well, Britt, thank you so much for joining us today. This was awesome. I hope a lot of people listen to this podcast and, learn from your experience and kind of like understand that, what's going on with Asian American hate crime is disgusting, And I don't even know if we touched on every single subject, but just starting stone, stepping stone.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate the time, guys.
No problem. Bye, Britt.
All right, can I hang up?
Yeah, you can.
Up?
Yeah, you can hang up now.
You can hang up. We'll edit this.
Goodbye.
Enjoy your dinner.
No, we'll leave it in
Thank
so
you.
you look embarrassing.
Oh, you can leave it on. I'll even plug. I have to go make dinner and I need to go create a script because I'm hosting a clubhouse room that I kind of forgot about, but I need to go make sure that everyone's ready for it.
Okay. Bye, Britt.
Bye,
You can
Britt.
listen. Bye.
Bye. I loved that interview. I don't know how you guys felt, but I thought it was a lot of fun.
Like I said, she is too good of a person for us to.
Jason, I'm sorry. I know you didn't really get to chime in. Is there any thing listening in that you enjoyed about that?
I just enjoyed it all.
Just enjoyed it all.
What was your favorite part about it?
All of it.
What part? Come on.
You really want me to get specific?
Yeah. Because I like the part when she was talking about being on the plane for the first time.
Yeah,
Because I can never even fathom that.
That was absolutely
I'm
wild.
always around seeing people who look like me.
Yeah, it just gives you a different perspective on life, basically.
Yeah. What if it was different?
Yeah.
Some people don't give a shit if it was different. It's like, no, this is what's going on. This is how I do it.
Yeah.
I liked not that I liked, but the part that I thought about a lot was the part where she said she had an old friend reach out to her and make a joke that even though she thought it was offensive, she didn't know if she should make a big deal. That kind of resonates with me because you don't know, you growing up and you think everything's okay. And maybe you have a friend that's a different ethnicity and you're like, oh, we're just making jokes. We've always been okay with each other, but it might be bothering them, You never want to offend anyone. So it's
really they may feel too awkward to say anything. And it's now you're putting them in a weird position to, yeah, just
totally
ask.
agree.
But this begs the question. What are you guys drinking today?
I'm so mad we're not together for this right now, but I'm drinking Citra Dreams, even though we're not doing Irish beer for Irish car bombs or anything for St. Paddy's Day.
Well, you know what? To our listeners that are still listening, we will do an Irish car bomb on the Instagram and maybe a TikTok.
Oh, we'll definitely have to do a TikTok for sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it for them.
Jason, you have to show the Gen Z how to do a Irish car bomb.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you have to do a full Guinness, though.
Oh, gross.
Yeah, tall boy.
That's
Make
disgusting.
it warm, though.
Oh, God.
Wait, so Jason, what are you currently drinking right now?
Actually, what I just finished was a peach jam from Two
Ooh,
Rooms.
that's not Irish at all. This is for our St. Patty's Day episode.
No. I'm pretty sure the peaches are Irish. They eat peaches in Ireland. It's fine.
No, the peaches are only for the presidents of the United States of America.
Okay.
You looked off to the side like you weren't sure about that, Justin. I caught that.
I can't remember. They're the band who sings the song Lump.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Justin, what are you drinking?
I am the only one
he
that
had
was
that sitting there
prepared
the whole time.
the whole time. I am currently drinking Smithwick's and Son. My bread is in the holder. Thought.
Oh, no, his bread.
Where did he just go?
He was making beer bread and forgot all about it.
He got captivated by Britt's store.
Oh, no, I hope the bread's okay.
That's honestly the funniest thing that he just took off. I can't wait for that to be screen grabbed.
Okay.
Is the bread okay?
The bread is okay.
Okay, thank God.
So I'm take two and action. I am drinking Smithwick's and Sons Irish Red Ale.
How is it?
And I just made Irish soda bread. No, Irish beer bread. Because it was made with beer. This beer to be in fact. And I got it at Trader Joe's. Jason, where did you purchase said peach jam?
The package store. Or sorry.
But where could you get the peach jam?
The package store.
Package stores.
Two Roads?
Two Roads, yes.
Yes. Stratford, Connecticut.
Yes, correct.
As I got mine in Trader Joe's. But you can get it in Ireland.
Oh,
John?
look at you.
So I'm drinking the Citra Dreams you guys brought over a few weeks ago. We talked about it on the pod. It's Captain Lawrence Brewing Company. Drinking it, finishing it up. Where is it from, actually? Hold on. Let me look around the can. It's an Indian Pale Ale.
The viewers love this.
I know. This is the most exciting part, watching John trying to read.
Jason, where's it from? Hold on. Where's it from? I know. Huh?
You really can't find it on the can,
No,
John?
I can't.
You're doing great.
My God.
It doesn't say where. But it is green, so St. Patty's Day, so it counts.
Wow, you're saying everything that's green is St. Patty's Day?
I didn't say that.
Wow.
It was a really good interview. I had a lot of fun. I'm really glad Britt made the time to do this. I hope we do more interviews like this, because,
it's just
Britt
cool to hear somebody else's opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally agree. And Britt talked about the power we have as three white dudes that can just bring other people on. So people listen to us. We did it.
Yeah, all 12 people who listen to this podcast.
Woohoo.
But no, either way, it's cool to hear other people's opinions. So let's keep that going.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Well, we'll end it here.
All right, gents. Cheers.
Peace, y'all. Happy St. Patty's Day, everyone.
Happy St. Patty's Day.
Thanks for drinking with us. Find us at Hot Takes and Beer Breaks on social media and wherever you get your podcasts. Cheers.
Adios.
Bye.